Bien, merci.
Thank you, Chris. Always interesting and motivating. Good evening, everyone. Let me introduce myself, Yvonne Barrière, a Regional Executive Vice President for PSAC Quebec. I would like to welcome you to this webinar on telework and work-life balance in the context of negotiations with Treasury Board. If you have technical issues, you could go to the bottom of your screen, FAQs or question and answer, and we'll redirect you. But first of all, I'd like to start by recognizing that I live and work in an ancestral, unceded Abenaki people's territory in Wabanaki. I'm also tonight thinking and today about all Ukrainian families in Canada, given this terrible situation that they're going through that is getting worse as we are talking. The Ukrainian community is the largest outside Ukraine. More than 1 million Canadians are of Ukrainian descent. They live in Canada. They are all stressed because of this unreal action taken by Vladimir Putin.
Government should be a leader when it and creating a clear workplace and achieving work-life balance with the flexible hour and remote work. We will also discuss the impact achieving these demands will have and why it's so important to will have mobilism to support our bargaining teams to reach a fair contract. Nous l'avons mentionné.
We have mentioned this after a survey that we we organized. Apparently, 75% of our members are working remotely and have been doing so since the beginning of the pandemic. And about 90% want to remain working remotely when normal life resumes. It's considerable. And the employer could not ignore that. With the pandemic, but also given retirements and the lack of manpower, the shortages, the federal government has to adapt and has to accept our demands and the priorities of new generations to attract, motivate, and retain its staff. The government will need to offer decent salaries adjusted for inflation, but also mechanisms to provide for the mental health of its staff, to provide flexibility for the new generation, and innovative measures to contribute to work-life, personal life balance. Among the factors that contribute to that, several are concerns already. When you think of permanent remote work, hybrid work, you have to think of the health and the safety of our members. You have to think of ergonomics, and you have to think of ways to generate social solidarity. We have to think of inequities that, or things that can create inequities, task assessment, accommodation requests, discrimination, to name just but a few. This pandemic showed us that we could put technology to our service. Members and organizations had to adapt quickly and had to count on technology to rethink the way they did work. Regular procedures are no longer valid. Status quo is no longer possible. This period that we went through where we had to think on our feet was very beneficial. Federal public service workers were able to push the limits, sometimes a little bit too much. For several of us, it's difficult to draw a line separating work and personal life, and that created havoc on our mental health, our personal life, and our family life. For that reason, the PSAC must also push the employer to rethink the limits with regard to the right to deconnect some countries in Europe. And you know this, have already begun regulating and penalizing communication outside working hours. And some corporations go as far as deactivating their servers at night and on weekends. So we have to do better, too, and negotiate clear language on this in our collective agreements. And we have to do better to protect the mental health of these employees, the members, our members at PSAC. Canadians need us more than ever. More than ever, they need the excellent services that you, our members, can provide the Canadian public. And it's for these services that we were recognized. But the employer mentioned that, but we need to up our standards, improve our standards, and it's up to us to convince the employer to do that. In the weeks and the months to come, it will be crucial for all of us to mobilize. At Treasury Board tables, Treasury Board is showing a complete lack of respect for us. Despite the unfailing work of all our members during the pandemic, the employer is still showing complete lack of respect towards us. It's time for that to stop. You know that Treasury Board underestimates the solidarity of members of the PSAC, and you know that Treasury Board underestimates our solidarity and our capacity to mobilize. And it's thanks to that strength that we will obtain gains.
That solidarity, a mobilization of PCC member, and with this strong, we will obtain the gains we want. Merci.
So thank you. I had promised Chris, Connor, and Jill that I would stop after 2 minutes. I respected my promise. I kept my promise, but now it's the time for our panelists.
Reynolds, RVMP, Ontario. Merci, Greg. This stage is yours.
Thank you very much, Yvonne. Yvonne, my name is Craig Reynolds. I'm the REVP for PSAC here in Ontario. Hello, everyone, and welcome to tonight's panel discussion. Tonight, we'll look at key issues that impact our members' work-life balance and what we hope to achieve in this current round of bargaining. Let me start our discussion by defining what we mean when we say work-life balance. With the high connectivity that we have due to technological and software advancement, much of our members' work can be done outside of traditional workplace settings through remote or telework options. Technology has made it so that we can be contacted at any time, and our work can be easily tracked and monitored. This has led to an always available culture that blurs the line between work and our personal lives. The pandemic sped up this transition to remote work, and with this sudden shift, we have seen both positive and negative impacts for our membership. For many of our members, this change resulted in longer working hours, including working at hours of the day and evenings and on weekends. This unfair work expectation, along with increased management surveillance, has led to higher levels of stress and a deterioration in our members' mental health. Other issues our members are facing related to working from home include members covering their own work expenses, such as buying their own supplies and an increase in their energy bills, a lack of proper equipment, ergonomic concerns, accommodation issues, and the challenges of childcare and online learning. As a parent myself of two young daughters in high school, working from home while trying to keep them engaged in online learning was a complete nightmare. And I know I'm not alone in this experience, because a lot of us parents had to struggle with working essentially 2 jobs at the same time, making sure our children are not falling behind, helping them with school, while at the same time juggling meeting after meeting after meeting on Zoom. There were also impact for our new and young workers who have lost opportunities for advancement by losing critical in-person socializing that allows for networking and relationship building. Isolation and a lack of mentoring opportunities further impacted our members' mental health and professional development. These challenges and hardships must be dealt with, and we have an opportunity to do that in this round of bargaining. Because despite the negative impacts, there have also been positive developments of remote work. In fact, a recent study done by our union showed that more than 90% of our members want to be able to continue to work remotely when the pandemic ends. This is understandable since members have greater flexibility throughout their day. They can avoid long commutes and have access to the comforts of home. For equity-seeking members, being away from the workplace has also meant avoiding co-workers' microaggressions and discriminatory office settings. Members want to be able to work remotely, but they want transparency in the process. It should not be up to a manager or a director to make determinations on remote work, because we know that this will lead to different outcomes for members depending on their department, where they are located, and their relationships with their supervisor or manager. This can lead to unfair discriminatory situations and also ones of unfair favoritism. That's why it is so important that we develop new rules around remote work within our next collective agreement. Your bargaining teams have heard you, and they are fighting on your behalf for clear, consistent, and fair rules around remote work. They are also fighting for improved leave provisions and language around the right to disconnect after work. All these demands will lead to an improvement of work-life balance, and with it, mental health and productivity. No matter where you're working from, your bargaining team will continue to push for more flexibility, for more flexible work arrangements, and that allows you the opportunity to shape your workday. With our over 165,000 members currently bargaining with Treasury Board this year, we have a lot of power. Let us take that power to make the changes we need to improve our working lives and reach the balance we need between our professional and personal responsibilities. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you. Thank you very much, brother. I now understand with 2 young girls at home, you can be tired and Zoom meetings of after 5 or 6 can be tiring, but we have to continue. So thank you very much. We'll move to our next panelist, a member of the bargaining team at UTE PSAC. He's also the UTE Regional Vice President for Western Quebec. It's my pleasure to introduce to you Eddie Aristide. Eddie, you have the floor. Thank you very much, Yvon. Very happy to be with you tonight. I would like to welcome everyone to this panel. As Yvon said in his introduction, my name is Eddie Aristide, Regional Vice President for the Montreal region, member of the UTE PSAC bargaining team. This is my 2nd experience on the bargaining team. From the beginning, From my first experience with the team, one of the objectives we had was to improve this work-life balance issue. From the outset, it was something that was very important to us. And in this, the pandemic showed it was an issue that was even more important now, more important than before. When we talk to the employer, we're always told that it's the employee's well-being that's important to them. And yet, every time they speak, one of the first things they say is based on service requirements. But they say they focus on employee well-being. Well, if it's employee well-being that's important, the first words out of their mouth should not be service requirements. So just to tell you how things are unfolding at UT and the agency, please remember a Friday, the 13th in 2020, when everything was put on off. From then on, it was a challenge that we had to make sure that our members at UTE, at the CRA, Canada Revenue Agency, be respected in the situation that unfolded. On that Friday, the 13th, you'll recall everything closed, schools, stores. We all remember how crazy things were in grocery stores, in Costco stores, people rushing in to buy toilet paper throughout the country. One of the things my colleague Jérôme and I at UT Quebec were focusing on was people's security. We had to make sure that priority would not be service requirements, but priority would be given to people's safety and security. We wanted to make sure that only the staff that were absolutely essential were going to be used. We saw all kinds of things get raised, critical positions, semi-critical positions, all kinds of things were raised by the employers. So to make sure that employees would be respected and their family life would be respected too, what we did is develop communications with our regions almost on a daily basis. To be able to follow the situation as it evolved. As I was saying earlier, children were at home, parents had to take care of children while working, everyone was afraid, we didn't know what was happening. Things were really chaotic from the outset. Hours of work, all kinds of things were raised. We were told, oh, if you don't have time, just put in 2 more hours at night. If you don't have time during the day. We had problems as well with computer updates. We were told, oh, don't do them during the day, try to do them on the weekends. So we had to fight to make sure that service requirements would not be the focus, but respecting the employees and their family life would be, because there were no limits between the office and the home, since the home had become the office. We had to fight daily, and we still have to continue fighting at this moment in time to make sure that employees are respected in their personal life. As one of my colleagues said earlier, work-life balance in this round of negotiations and for the future is extremely, extremely important. Because performance appraisals can be done remotely, staffing can be done remotely. We have to make sure during this round of bargaining that regulations on remote work is focused on membership mobilization is done remotely. These are all issues that we're dealing with today, and for which membership mobilization is absolutely crucial. Absolutely essential to establish future working conditions. That situation will not change. The percentage, as Chris was saying earlier, the percentage of people that will keep working from home is extremely high. And at the agency, we were on the front lines from the start, but working remotely, and we have to make sure that people will be respected in their family life, their personal life. That's it for me, Ivo. Thank you very much, Eddie. That was filled with emotion and good details. I really appreciated your talk. And now,
Juan, Zarina, it's your turn.
Thank you, Yvonne, and good evening. I would like to thank you all for giving me the opportunity. I'm here for giving you a perspective on work-life balance from the Joint Learning Program. On a personal note, I have been a PSAC member for the past 35 years and have held various positions within my local and national executive. And at present, I am the Regional Vice President, Ontario, for the Union of Veterans Affairs Employees. I have also chaired the Racially Visible Action Committee in the past for almost 4 years and was very active in promoting mental health and diversity and inclusion within the workplace and the union. Just to give you a very brief background of the JLP, most of you are probably aware that this program started in November 2001 through a memorandum of agreement included in the collective agreement, and it was a joint project between the Treasury Board of Canada and the Public Service Alliance. Because of the success of the pilot program, it was renegotiated in 2008, 2011, and again in 2014. JLP has many workshops with many different topics. When pandemic hit us 2 years ago, all our in-person workshops were put on hold, and the JLP got really creative and developed many virtual sessions. The most popular ones are the mental health discussion series and the anti-racism discussion series. When we had all started to work at home, the mental health of our members had taken a great toll. It was very difficult for many members to adjust to this kind of work. I have done many, many sessions on mental health, and I hear the same message all the time in most of my sessions. Members are either loving working at home or others are finding it very difficult to do work-life balance. And there are many reasons for it. Adjustments have to be made in home life, childcare, elder care, and it made it even more difficult because we had lots of members who have young children at home who were homeschooling, and we have heard this from previous speakers as well. Daycares were closed, home care centers were closed. People who had elderly parents at home were finding it very difficult to get help to come in during the time of medical issues. Our members were having to work longer hours. Many members said they found it very difficult to plug off at the end of the day because they were working from small areas, either on their kitchen table or their coffee table. And they were finding it extremely difficult to switch off when they could see the phones flashing or the computers making sounds to tell them that there was an email for them. Many of them also told me through many of these sessions that they felt obligated to answer the emails or the phone calls after working hours. I often had suggested to members that just put a perspective on it and see if you were at work, and would you ever go back at 8 o'clock in the evening to answer emails or to answer phones? Just take your time 7.5 hours a day and log off. It's easy to say, but we all know our members are very dedicated to provide service to the Canadian public. And so they felt it was their time to give back to the public. A lot of them also tell me that working at home, they miss the interaction in the office. They miss being able to speak to their members, to their coworkers in the evenings, have those, water tank conversations. They also said that, of course, with technology and the development of their MS team functions, they find it much easier now because they can see each other, they can talk to each other, and they feel that they have somebody they can turn to. What other things are here at these sessions are that members of the Indigenous communities, racialized people, people with disabilities are feeling the impact more. Because as we know, many people have extended families within the racialized communities. They live with parents, grandparents, parents-in-law, and they find that a lot of the elderly parents, grandparents, etc., have a lot of health needs, very chronic health needs sometimes. And they have, because they had arrangements for them when they were going into work, and those arrangements are not able to coming into the home, they were having to not only deal with young children, but they were having to deal with their elderly parents as well. A lot of single mothers were finding it even more difficult. And it has taken a very great role on their mental health. And they find that work-life balance is not available that easily because some managers do not understand the need to take a time here and there, 20 minutes here, 20 minutes there. And if they push for it, they are told, well, make up the time after hours, work on a Saturday, work on your compressed day. All of these pressures are being put on our members, and mental health is really a very major effect for them. I find this at many sessions. I hear this all the time when I am facilitating these sessions. And a lot of members also, of course, tell me that they enjoy working from home. They enjoy having their own space. They love the fact that they can blend in their family life and their work life. Many of them would love to stay working at home. Some say they would like a hybrid model, maybe 2 days at work, 3 days in the house. Whatever it is, many members are finding this work-life blending very difficult to manage. Some are finding it very easy to manage. So on a perspective that I have seen throughout the JLP sessions is there is a mix, but work-life balance is very important. And it is very important for the employer to be able to give this to us. It's important to negotiate this. It's important to get it in the collective agreement. And we need to support each other for this. We need to support the PSAC as well during collective agreement to be able to get us this work-life balance, to be able to let us plug off at 4:30 in the evenings and have the time for ourselves in the evening. We need to push for this because it will provide a much safer and healthier and more psychologically safe workplace for our members. Thank you.
Merci, merci bien.
Thank you, Zarina.
All right, tu as parfaitement raison. Merci.
You're perfectly right. Thank you so much. I'm very happy now to welcome our last panelist. And I've also started collecting questions in the meantime. But for now, we'll talk to the last panelist, but not the least, a senior research officer, Pierre-Samuel Proulx. Pierre-Samuel, you have the floor. Thank you, Pierre. Thank you, Yvonne, and good evening, everyone. As Yvonne said, my name is Pierre-Samuel Proulx. I'm the Senior Research Officer assigned to the Common Issues table. Common Issues are issues that are common to all our Treasury Board tables, PA, TC, SV, and EB. for this round of negotiations with the Treasury Board of Canada. Tonight, I'll give you a brief overview of the gains we are seeking at the Common Issues table to promote better balance between private life and work life. For those who might like to read the wording of our demands, they are posted on the PSAC website under Negotiations and Treasury Board. You'll see all the demands. So first of all, when we talk about remote work, I'd like to talk about our PSAC demands concerning the choice of our members to work remotely or not. Our demands describe the process to telework so that our members not be denied by the managers without a valid reason. Our demands on this also provide for measures allowing employees to receive all of the equipment that they need to work remotely efficiently. On that note, we're asking for a monthly income, monthly amount to be given to employees so that they can work remotely. We want to reaffirm the employer's obligation as well to take into account accommodation, ergonomics, health and safety, even when the work is performed remotely. Finally, we want remote work to be exempt from any unreasonable surveillance and control. That context should not be used by the employer as a pretext to use undue surveillance. Unfortunately, Treasury Board has refused all our demands, saying they were not necessary, that they already have a directive on remote work. Well, the government policy came into effect in April 2020. The pandemic had just begun then. And 2 years later, that policy or that directive is completely irrelevant, gives too much power to managers, which can lead to discrimination. A new directive should be included in the collective agreement as opposed to being a simple directive outside the collective agreement that the employer can modify and amend at will. The PSAC wants to affirm the rights of our members to a work-life balance, and working remotely has really confused the two. Some managers are using systems to force employees to work beyond their workday. 1 person out of 5 who answered the survey said they felt forced to look at their emails outside regular working hours at least a few times a week. Our demand at the bargaining table is therefore simple. Our members should not be forced to take calls, professional calls, outside their working hours, except when they are paid to do so. An employee should never be disciplined for exercising that right, but the employer refuses to recognize that right to disconnect in the collective agreement. Another improvement demanded has to do with improvement of rates for annual leave accumulation. We are asking for our members to get 4 weeks of leave 3 years earlier. Taking vacation time allows employees to spend more time with family or, function at a different pace. It's positive both for the employee and the employer. Our demands are very clear. The bargaining teams really want improvement on work-life balance, and we will do everything that we can to achieve that objective before the end of the round. Thank you very much, Pierre Samuel. So summarizing your comments, I gather we still have some work to do at Treasury Board. It's going to be a difficult round. Thank you so much, Pierre Samuel. We received questions ahead of the panel. So one question for Brother Reynolds. How can we support our bargaining teams and get involved in our fight for work-life balance, work-life conciliation? Brother Reynolds.
That's a very great question. There are many ways members can support or can show their support for their bargaining teams. First, make sure that your contact information is up to date with PSAC. This will enable you to receive important bargaining information. Also, take part in calls to action, like the one we are having tonight. These can also include online petitions and email actions, calling or lobbying MPs, and participating in events organized by your local component or the PSAC. You can also talk to your co-workers about ongoing bargaining. Get them involved in supporting the team in ways that fit their comfort level. This could be wearing buttons or stickers, or attending meetings where bargaining team members are invited to speak. The more visible our members are in showing their support, is the stronger our position becomes. So try and participate in any way you can. Thanks, Yvonne.
C'est moi qui te remercie.
I'd like to thank you, brother. Very good answer. We have to get involved. We have to engage and mobilize. We always say that together we stand. So thank you very much. Eddie, I received a question just for you. What would you tell members who hesitate in asking management for flexible times or remote work, or at least hybrid work? Eddie. Just for me, a question just for me, Yvonne. Well, thank you very much. Well, listen, I always tell members, never be afraid of demanding things. No one will give you a gift on anything if you don't ask for things. Your demands will allow you to obtain a few things. So you are best placed to improve your work conditions, to know what your needs are, what might constitute an improvement in your working conditions and your work-life balance. You are the best place for that. So it's important to demand things based on your needs, on what would allow you to improve your situation. The employer will never stop asking for things. As I said earlier, the employer asked us to do our computer updates on the weekend. The employer was asking us to do some work at night if we couldn't do everything during the day because of childcare. No, that's unacceptable. But it's up to us to demand things to improve our working conditions. Yvonne, I hope I've answered your question. Thank you very much, Eddie. Absolutely. So we have to ask, we have to demand, we have to stay strong and tall before the employer. We are providing services and not the opposite. Thank you very much, Eddie. I appreciated your answer. I received 2 questions for Zarina. I'm reading them now. Zarina, the first question for you. Why do you think that the fight for mental health at work is important at present? So that's the first question, Zarina.
I think the fight is very important because it's twofold. Our members are right now are overwhelmed, they're overworked, and they're burnt out, not just with the work that they do, but the amount of work that they put in a day. On top of that, we have a global pandemic and Treasury Board mandates to do this, to do that, and our members are being overwhelmed with all of this. We also have the war happening in Ukraine. We are all part of our community, a part of the world. Many of our members are from the Ukrainian community, and it's having a lot of impact on their mental health. These situations not only affect them directly, they affect their co-workers as well, because you're interacting with them, you're hearing their issues, you're hearing their concerns. That's why I think it's having a lot of impact on us.
Merci beaucoup. Donc, pour la...
Thank you very much, Zarina. That was a very good answer. Concerning Ukraine, the Canadian diaspora is 1,300,000 Canadians that were born in Ukraine or of Ukrainian descent. So we have to think about that. It certainly does affect our members. We're starting to see the light at the end of the pandemic tunnel. There's a return to work that is more or less positive, and now Putin attacks part of Europe. Second question for you, Zarina.
What impact do you think our professional culture have on our family and communities?
It has a big impact on our families and communities. Right now, the effect of these things is so great, given the current global situation. We are working longer hours. We are working with high intense members in complex situations. And there is no division anymore between work and home. It's just work is the constant invasion in our private life right now. And everyone is needing more, but really we have no more to give at all.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much, Zarina. All along this panel, each panelist talked about mobilization. Chris did so, talked about taking action. We will propose an action right now, tonight. So please stay with us. I will give the floor to our sister Jill, who will suggest a quick and easy mobilization activity. Jilly, what do you have in store for us? We're listening. Thank you, Yvonne.
You can see our call in action. I'm going to give you a few instructions. So what we're going to do is we're going to fill the inboxes of a couple of key ministers. So